Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another edition of Faith of Life. My name is Hamid Slimi and I'm your host for this show. We've been dealing with Islam for common sense. We tackle different issues. Today I would like to tackle the issue of religion and culture, Islam and culture. Sometimes the questions come, is this Islam or is it cultural Islam? Is this part of the revelation? This is what God wants us to do, or this is what the culture wants us to do? Of course, people cannot get rid of their cultures, but sometimes when culture clashes with the principles, with the religion, with the common sense, which one should take precedence? Of course, revelation comes first, and revelation can accommodate a culture which, of course, does not contradict with the principles and the will of God, as we say, through the revelation. In the next few couple questions, we dealt with this issue very deeply, so let's watch it.
Imam Hamid, it seems that there's confusion between culture and religion in Muslims, especially when they've moved from their home countries to they move and settle in new countries. I would like your views in terms of the responsibilities of Muslims when it comes to integrating in host countries.
I thank you for this question. This question is very important because this is one of the most repeated questions by our youth, in a sense that they are actually being told every day that this is part of Islam and that this is Islam and you should take it as it is, whereas it is not really Islam. It's either a culture or it could be an interpretation of Islam that has evolved over a cultural context, a historical context, and created this assumption that this is the way to be, this is the way to do things. So you probably, in your question, is so encompassing of many things and stories and memories of things that we have taken for granted as part of Islam. And later we found that had nothing to do with Islam. It is the product of a long evolution over time, and over cultures and over interactions, and then it developed itself to the point that we think it is Islam. Islam is very simple. Islam is very simple, and it's all in the major pillars of Islam and Iman. What Muslims believe, that a person first and foremost should follow the Prophet Muhammad, and the mission of the Prophet Muhammad is to show people how to behave in the best manner. And he did summarize all his mission. He said, I was sent by God to show people the best ways of conduct of manners. Now, this is not only a claim he claimed, this was in his impact in society. Even his very own enemies who fought against him did witness, as in the story of Abu Sufyan with the emperor, with Caesar, when he told him he is not a person who lies, he is not a person who cheats. So when he mentioned, although the cultural contexts were different, he was asking him, look at the questions of the emperor. They were specific about principles, about what Islam is all about. He did not tell him, how about the Arabian context on that? So which actually, you will find this in the questions of non-Muslims asking us, is your faith about this and that? You can, by nature, they can tell you whether this is from God or this seems to be a cultural issue. For instance, the hijab issue. Some people think it might be from culture, and some people say, no, it's from the revelation. Of course, the hijab is mentioned. Some people deny it, but it is mentioned in many chapters clearly about it. But now, what are the interpretation of that? Now, the interpretation might be, of course, gone through the cultural context, and then take a certain interpretation and say this is the correct hijab and all kinds of hijab are wrong. So the scholars came and responded in a very strict way and a very simple way to address many issues. Some people think, for instance, that if a woman is educated, even if she is educated, should never hold a responsible position, a position of responsibility or decision making. Now we're going to go and look at the Prophet's life, the wife of the Prophet, and also the product that of this establishment the Prophet has made over the centuries that followed him, with the understanding of the generation, the first generation, and the generation that met the first generation. We call them the followers. And we will find that women were given positions of what we call today ministers, Minister of Finance. Al-Hisbah was done in Baghdad by a woman. She was the Minister of Finance. And this is a very, very critical position. We know that the companions learned and acquired knowledge, a lot of it, as it is reported, from the wife of the Prophet, Aisha. She did actually teach a lot of the companions and the followers about the faith and religion. And a lot of things that we know today in fiqh, in jurisprudence, came from women. From the women, whether the wife of the Prophet, whether they are the companions of the Prophet. So these were educated. We know that women did ask the Prophet, and it's reported. We know that women contested and actually stood up and argued in a very civilized manner, polite manner, with Umar, the second caliph, successor of the Prophet. And they did say, no, your opinion might be wrong, when he said we should limit the dowry, which is the mahr given from a man to a woman before marriage. And he said we should limit it because some people have abused that and they're asking large amounts. But she stood up, she said, God in chapter 4, women, did say, if you commit to give a woman 100 kilos, qintar, 100 kilos of gold, you should honor what you have promised. And then he said, a woman, he admitted in front of the public, he said, imra'atun afqahu min Umar. A woman understands better than Umar. This is the leader of the Muslims, standing and admitting publicly, without feeling any threatening, without feeling any sense of weakness, that this woman did get the point better than me and did relate to the revelation. And he said it publicly, which shows you the caliber of the leaders, that they allowed criticism, allowed education of women. And then we can find that later in the culture, some people actually said, no, the best place for a woman is to stay home to cook and wash dishes and laundry, and she should not.